Welcome into the NBA Tip-Off Show here at WagerTalk TV. I'm Megan Payton. We have a full slate of NBA on the boards today. The NFL season's officially over with the Super Bowl ending last night. It's time to get all focused on basketball. And we've got a great panel joining us here to break down our Monday slate. We've got Andy Lang, Steve Merrill, and Bryan Leonard all here today to talk through some NBA. We're going to break down our contrarian play of the day. We have our best bets, our dog of the days. But first, I want to go around the horn and hear what everyone has going on at WagerTalk TV. Andy, I'll come to you. What's going on? How are you today? And what do you have for us at .com?
It's a beautiful day. We had a huge weekend. We cashed our 5% play on the Super Bowl with the Eagles team total going over. So that wraps up a 21-8 run on 5% plays in the NFL. So I was really happy with that. But, moving forward, we swept the UFC card on Saturday, and we have a 5% best bet up for this week's card in UFC. Under the radar, we've had 6 golf tournaments. I've turned a profit in all 6 of them. There's just a lot of good things going on. We had a big day in hockey yesterday with some shots, props. We had a big Saturday and Sunday in those. And NBA has been going well. So we hit a couple plays yesterday, or I'm sorry, we hit one big play yesterday. So things are looking good across the board. I would say UFC, the 5% play would be the most recommended thing I have on the card for today, just because it's $9. You get that discount on the 5% play. But all sports is going great. We got several specials at WagerTalk. Glad to be doing a show with Bryan. I wish I could end up on more panels with him, as I love his insight. So looking forward to a great NBA show.
Well, I'm going to ask you this too, Bryan, but as the NFL season officially comes to the end, Andy, is there a sport that you feel like gets more attention now that you don't have to focus on football, or does it stay pretty even across all seasons?
It stays pretty even. Golf and auto racing is what brought me to Wager Talk, so it's always going to have my attention. And even though it's not the most popular one to bet on, I keep getting more and more people to follow when they see the
Yep.
record and they see the units coming in. So now I can start, getting more people involved with it. And then of course, we have the same passion about props. And this is the
Yes.
time of year when NBA and NHL are fantastic for player props. So the effort is it remains the same on all these. It's just a great time of year to get involved with some of these other sports now that NFL's out of the way.
Absolutely. NBA heating up. Lots of major trades the last week. Bryan Leonard, how are you doing? And what do you have going on at wagertalk.com?
I'm doing really well. I've been staying in my lane, and I've talked about this in the past. I've never been very good in the Super Bowl. I've been okay in the NFL overall, but the Super Bowl, I've just never done well. And sure enough, this is the year I don't put out anything in the Super Bowl. And of course, Kansas City wins, and that would have been my opinion. But I would rather give the client something that I'm winning on, and that has been basketball, and that has been the hockey. So that's what we concerned ourselves with all weekend. We had another nice weekend. Didn't give them a single football play, and it worked out well. I'm also wearing my Cleveland Browns apparel, originally from Cleveland, and I could say, hey, we're tied for first. Maybe the last time I could say that this year. But yeah, really excited about the basketball and the hockey coming up, and it's been great. Been on real nice runs in the NBA, college basketball, and of course, number one in the NHL the last 5+ years. So really excited about the card today, as well as going in the future, because everything we do well on, we are on a nice streak for.
Well, I like your motto, Bryan. I've got the God screaming in my ear to get both of your takes on this game coming up. We've got Steve Merrill joining us here in a little bit. But let's get into our contrarian play of the game. The Gods like Charlotte. Charlotte +6. The Hawks are taking on the Hornets tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hawks are a 6-point favorite. The total's at 240. This is a regional rival game, and the Hornets are the worst in the East. It seems funny to me because when you look at this team, they should be better. They should be average, at least on paper. With Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball, you would expect them to be just a tiny bit better. Hawks, on the other hand, are just average. So, Bryan, I'll start with you. Are you riding with the Gods here? Charlotte +6, worst team in the East.
Interesting look between these two teams. Coming into the season, I thought Atlanta was going to be a bet on team. I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, and I was seeing the season wins for Cleveland, and I thought Atlanta may be the better bet. Well, luckily I didn't place that wager because they haven't played as well this year. They have some inner turmoil coming into the season, and it hasn't really played out the way they would like. Charlotte, interesting. In the beginning of the year, they weren't quite as bad coming out of the gate, and they were doing a lot of scoring. And the coach came out and talked about it. He said, "This is a team that all they can do is care about their scoring." Well, they haven't scored as much as of late because the defense just hasn't done well. You take a look at what they've done. Uh, 119, 127, 118, 119, 118. That's on the road as of late. 114, 124, 117 before that. So they're not playing any defense at all. One thing we have to keep in mind as we do these shows today and tomorrow, the All-Star break is just about here. Teams take the All-Star break differently depending on if you're a team in the playoffs, if you're a veteran team, or if you're a team like I was when I was a senior in high school, when I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there on vacations. That could be the situation that Charlotte's in right now. They've lost at least 12, or just on a terrible streak here, lost like 7 straight. And then they get to play a home game in 2 days against San Antonio, the only team playing worse than them, I think, in the NBA. So it would not surprise me at all if you don't get the best effort out of Charlotte here and they put it towards that game in 2 days. This is their 3rd game in 4 days. Then they got the day off and they play host San Antonio. So not looking for much out of Charlotte here. They're putting themselves in a position where at the end of the year they might have a better chance for the first round, the first couple picks in the draft. That's something they can look forward to now. It's a season for Charlotte where it's just been a major disappointment. Atlanta's a team, they're playing better now than they did before. They ran off a streak where it looked like they were giving up, but they have played better as of late, coming off wins over Phoenix and San Antonio. They end the first half of the season playing a home game against New York in 2 days. So their schedule, as you look at it, they haven't had many back-to-back games. They're fresher coming into this game. Don't like to lay points on the road, but I think I'll have to do that in this one. I will stick with Atlanta in this contest.
I'm right there with you. The Hornets have lost 7 in a row. They have not covered in their last 6. The Hawks have won 2 in a row, both of which were at home. And here's what the Hawks do well. They guard the perimeter really well. They're top 10 in 3 points allowed per game. Andy, I'm with Bryan here. I'm not rolling with the contrarian gods. What's your approach in this one?
I so don't want anything to do with the Charlotte Hornets. That being said, it's just the contrarian gods. I can't go against them. They've just been so good this year. Like every time I'm on the show, the contrarian gods come through. I don't have a strong opinion. I at this time of year, there's no way I'm betting on these really, really bad teams. And Charlotte is a really, really bad team. I mean, they lost to Detroit by 6. So I like getting the same spread here against a team that's better against Detroit. I don't know. I'm always going to side with the contrarian gods on a coin flip, but I certainly wouldn't blame you if you took Atlanta tonight. A prop that interests me is Gordon Hayward under his points, rebounds, and assists. It's 23.5. This guy's gone under in 13 of his last 16 games. He had this crazy game against Denver. It was a second leg of a back-to-back. He shoots the ball 18 times. That's the second most for the season. He had 21 points. He flies over his PRA, but he's only averaging 2 rebounds and 3 assists this month. He's only averaging 11.8 points. Atlanta's okay against small forwards, but I just don't see Hayward hitting consistently over his points, rebounds, and assists. So he hit over on his last game. I'm going to come right back and take him on the under. I think that's my favorite prop. And if the Hawks get out to a big lead, which is more than possible, he could have limited minutes tonight. So give me Hayward under his PRA, my favorite prop in this game.
Good way to find some value, Andy, in a game where it's really difficult to bet on a Hornets team. Let's get into our featured game. This one is a bit more competitive. We're looking at the Denver Nuggets at Miami Heat. Nuggets are a 1.5 point favorite. The total has shifted a little bit, but it's at 219.5 right now. Tip off at 7:40 p.m. Eastern. I want to come right back to you, Andy. Maybe you have something from a prop perspective. The Nuggets are coming off a 14-point win to the Hornets. The Nuggets are on their last game of a 3-game road trip. However, the Heat have won their last 3. Are you looking at this game from a side perspective, or are you going to be focusing on a prop here?
Going back to Jokic to have a triple-double. Listen, it's the gift that keeps on giving. They keep putting this prop at plus money, and here we go again, plus 135. Miami, second best team defending centers. Guess what? Doesn't matter. He played the Heat on December 30th. He had a triple-double. That was a game Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler played in. The Cavaliers are the second best team defending centers. The Grizzlies are the sixth best team defending centers. Celtics are eighth. Timberwolves are ninth. Suns are 10th. He has had triple-doubles against all of those teams. So it doesn't even matter if a team is good at defending centers. He's like, it's like Jokic proof. It doesn't matter if you're playing an elite defense or a bad defense. He just gets there. He just missed against Dallas and Philly. Those are the other two really good teams against centers, but you're getting plus 135 on a guy who's had a triple-double in 11 out of 14 games. He's done it against the best teams all season, including one against Miami. It's like he gets fired up for going up against guys like Adebayo and some of these others. So plus 135, absolutely. Give me Jokic to have a triple-double.
From an injury perspective, I mean, the Miami injury report is at length. 11 of the Heat's 16 players are on the injury report from Monday. We got good news, though, on a few that are going to be probable. Tyler Herro has been listed as doubtful now, downgraded earlier this afternoon. For the Nuggets, we've got Murray and Gordon. They're questionable. Bryan, these are two teams that play very differently. The Denver Nuggets, a strong offensive team, second offensive rating in the NBA. Meanwhile, the Heat play with force, physical. They're going to wear out teams. This is why they've got a top 5 defense in the NBA. How are you approaching this one tonight?
Yeah, Denver's got a little bit more depth than they've had in the past, and that helps them in this regard against a physical team like Miami. You take a look at the schedule as of late. We take a look at Miami. It's a situation for Miami. They've won 3 straight games. They beat Orlando, Houston, and Indiana, but the Orlando game, they were pretty lucky to win that game on the road. And then they beat Houston team, and our producer will back me up on this. They're not very good. They only beat them by 2 at home. And then Indiana, they win by 5 at home. So even though they're getting these victories, they haven't been very impressive. They finished the first half by going to Brooklyn, a different Brooklyn team than what they expected to see a few days ago. And then they come back the second half to play Milwaukee. I like the Miami team. Miami's got one of the best coaching staffs in basketball. They've just been the things they've been able to do without star players for the most part. Even when they got their best players being injured, they're still very good. But I prefer the other side. I prefer Denver here. Looking at the schedule, you've got to go all the way back until when they played Minnesota on the 5th, which was the second game of a back-to-back. But since then, they've had 2 days off, 2 days off, 2 days off. They have the same thing today, a day off between all their games, and they finish it up with Dallas at home, which is a big game coming up. Now that Dallas has made some moves during the trade deadline. So this is a game for Denver where they've been known as a good regular season team, but when they get to the playoffs, they haven't lived up to their opportunities. I think this year they're going to come at it a little bit differently. I think they're going to pile up the wins, try to get as many as possible so they get that home field advantage, home court advantage. Right now they're 4.5 games up on the next closest team coming out west. And the teams behind them, 2 of the teams behind them right now would be Phoenix, which is 8.5 games behind them, and Dallas 8.5 games behind them. And those 2 teams made major changes coming into the All-Star break. The Clippers are also a team, when they're healthy, they're another team to really struggle against. So I think every win is important for Denver right now. And if you take a look at the teams coming out west, the Western Conference overall, there's only 2 teams that have winning records on the road. One of them is the Clippers, a team that's got a lot of veteran leadership. The other, the Sacramento Kings. And I really like the Sacramento team. They've got a great future, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. But Denver's a team that needs the wins. I like Denver here. The line's moved a little bit, as you mentioned. Hero's not playing, so the line moved a little bit, but still in the pick'em range. They just need to win the game to get the cover, and that's what I'm looking for. I'll lay it with Denver.
Steve Merrill, welcome to the NBA Tip-Off Show. We're talking Denver Nuggets, Miami Heat. Nuggets 1.5-point favorite. Looking at it from a head-to-head perspective, the Nuggets have dominated Denver. They've won and covered 8 of their last 9 games head-to-head. What's your approach for this matchup? Denver, top seed right now. I think there's a little bit more to play for maybe for if you're Nuggets team.
Yeah, Megan, flip-flopping on the favorite here. I mean, Miami opened as much as -2. Now they're +1.5 in some spots today. I'm going to look at the total, actually. A lot of money coming in on the under. It was 224.5 at the opener, 224, now down to 219.5. And I agree with that under move. This is a rematch from the December 30th meeting in Denver, in which it was 243 points, 117 at halftime. But if you look at the box score, Denver shot 59% from the field. They shot 60.5% from three-point range, 17 for 28. Miami was 40%, 14 for 35. 27 for 30 from the free throw line. So basically, you can't shoot any better than these teams did in that earlier meeting. But there were 34 turnovers, including 20 by Denver. And turnovers normally take away scoring opportunities, obviously, in points. So I think the shooting will cool off in this game. And I think we're going to see a lower scoring game. And don't forget, 11 current players are on the Miami injured report. A lot of them are listed as probable. They will play. But that's an entire roster basically on the injury report right now for Miami. And I don't see them taxing in a fast-paced game. Even if it is fast, I think Miami will slow it down at times. I like under 219.5.
Yeah, 11 of their 16 players on the injury report. Not looking good for Miami. Before we break into our overtime game, Steve, we have you here. We want to know, what do you have going on at wagertalk.com, and how's your week been?
Yeah, Super Bowl finished well. We won 5 to 6 player props. Also won the over in the game, an easy over. So finished the NFL nice. And two best bets for basketball. Basketball is up over 42 units of profit the past 5 weeks. It's a great time of the year to be playing hoops. $9 Monday, NBA and college basketball best bets, both for $9. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
Well, let's keep talking totals. Steve Merrill looking at a total in the Nuggets Heat game, but we've got an overtime game tonight. That is the Utah Jazz at Indiana Pacers. Tip off at 7 p.m. Eastern. Jazz a 1-point favorite. The total at 238 right now. This opened at 235.5. So a little bit of action coming in on the over here. Let's look at this, because both of these teams are ranked outside the top 10 in effective field goal rate. They do not have the highest pace teams. They're out of the top 5 in that aspect. Bryan, from an over-under perspective, do you find any reason to bet on the over?
Well, both teams are playing their third game in 4 days. There's two ways you can look at that. Obviously, you're a little bit tired, but a lot of times if you're tired, it affects your shooting. These are NBA players. All they care about is shooting for the most part. That's how they get paid. So I don't think that's going to be much of an effect here. And plus, you've got two teams, especially from the Indiana side, who's just, they've had 2 wins over the last, since the 10th of the last month, they've got 2 wins. So it's been a situation where they're not getting many. So I would expect them to get a good effort offensively here. If I had to play it, I'd play the over. Problem is, I don't have to play it. Lean with the over here, but I do want to make a point that there's another game when we're talking about totals, another game tonight that's on the schedule, and that would be the Dallas Mavericks game. Dallas right now, the way they've changed this team up, they've got 2 of the worst defending guards starting and playing, 35 minutes a game, but those 2 guards are also very good offensive players. So I would expect a nice run on the overs in these Dallas games until the lines maker catch up. That's the closest I came to a total on today's game. So it didn't help it's on this one, but I do like the Dallas over. It almost made a play for me, but that's my best total on the card today.
You can get Dallas over 232.5 right now as the total. They're taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Mavericks are a 6.5-point favorite. Good eye on that one. Steve, let's go back to Jazz Pacers. Utah has gone over in their last 8 road games. Utah's gone over in the 5 of the last 6 games. However, Indiana's gone under in 5 of their last 7 games and under in 5 of their last 6 at home. You can find kind of contradicting trends here. Is there an angle that you're going to look at for handicapping total?
Well, the Jazz are an interesting team to talk about, Megan, because this was a team I thought was going to regress big time this year, and they really got off to a surprisingly good start for the first couple months of the season. But now they are a below 500 team at 28-30, and I really think maybe not only they have fade as far as a point spread because they're just 1-4-1 their last 6. They've only covered one of their last 6 games ATS, but I think they also are a pure overplay. And as you said, they've been on an overrun. They've gone over 5 of those last 6 games, despite only covering one of them. So once again, tonight in a situation where it's kind of around a pick 'em range, they did open as a slight dog. We've actually seen money come in on Utah. They're now -1 in most locations. We have seen money come on the over as well, 235.5 up to 238. Over would be the only way I'd play this one. Obviously, two teams involved here. And as you said, Indiana is definitely on an under run. They've gone under 5 of their last 7. But as Bryan said, these guys all want to play offense. We see less defense than ever in the NBA. So when you have a team that's been playing high scoring games with very little defense, I think the opponent will follow, and Indiana will be glad to play that way as well. And keep in mind, they're 8 games below 500. These are 2 losing teams. We have the All-Star break right around the corner, which is something else we have to talk about this week, because
Yep.
the week before and the week after the All-Star break are always a little bit dicey when it comes to handicapping. We had the trade deadline last week. It brings a lot of uncertainty. And whenever there's uncertainty, I like more offense, less defense, more playground style basketball. So over is the only way I would play this one tonight.
We all know what it was like, as Bryan mentioned, a week before spring break. You're not in the same headspace as you might have been 2 weeks prior. I think that is an interesting note as the All-Star game approaches here. Andy, from a prop perspective in this game, I'm looking at Colin Sexton over 17 and a half points. This line feels a little bit low for me here. Are you going to approach anything in this one from a prop perspective or stick on the total?
Well, so the Pacers are, well, they're bad at a lot of things. Defense and rebounding are the top 2 what I would go with. So I was trying to figure out, do I want to take a Jazz player or team total over? But I decided to focus on the rebounds. I think we're getting a really, really good number on Kelly Olynyk, over 5.5 rebounds in this one. It's plus 100. They're the second worst rebounding team the last 15 games. They're only averaging 29.6 defensive rebounds in that time. Utah's 8th best in the same time frame. And pretty much every big man gets over this total against the Pacers. I just started going back and seeing, well, like, how many games has a big man gotten over this total? And it's pretty much every game. So you look up a big name and a big guy, they get over this total. And I like that Olynyk only had 3 rebounds last game against the Knicks. He didn't play very many minutes because he was in foul trouble. He had gone over this total in 4 straight games before this. I think he gets to 6 or more rebounds pretty easily tonight against a truly horrific team on the glass tonight.
We'll have to monitor these 2 teams as we get closer to the All-Star weekend. Lots going on in the NBA. It's time to look at the dogs of the night, underdogs that our panel is going to be eyeing. It's time for dog time.
That's my dog. Roof, roof.
That's my dog. Hey, if we have to sing it, we got to
It
sing
sounded just like it,
dogs.
right?
We do not get paid to sing on this show, that's for sure. Charlotte, San Antonio, Indiana, Houston, Brooklyn, Miami, Orlando, New Orleans, Minnesota, Washington, and the LA Lakers. Those our dogs of the day. We'll get the soundtrack back next show. Andy Lang, what dogs are you looking at tonight?
Well, I will go with the Minnesota Timberwolves plus 6.5. I know Brian's going to talk about a game I think I like even more than mine. So if you're really looking for an underdog, listen to Brian's analysis. And Brian did a really good job touching on this. The Mavericks, this roster is so different right now. So I think it could be a little bit tricky looking at some of these stats. I mean, for example, right now for the season, the Mavericks are the second slowest paced team. That's not going to continue with Kyrie on there. They don't have, one of their best defenders, if not their best defender anymore. This is a completely different makeup. And they gave up 114 points to Sacramento the next game. They gave up 133. That was an overtime game. Kyrie helps their offense, does not help their defense. And I don't want to lay numbers over 4 or 5 on this Dallas team because I just have so many questions about their offense. Now Minnesota, or about their defense. Minnesota is inconsistent. I mean, they blow out Utah by almost 30, but then they lose to Memphis by 21. They lost to Denver by like 34. But they beat them the time before. So they're an inconsistent team. I just think Minnesota is going to be able to score. Anthony Edwards should have a really nice night, as there's not going to be much stopping him from getting inside and getting to the rim. So going up against a team that I got a lot of questions about their defense, I'll always take the points. So it'll be Minnesota plus 6.5.
Bryan, any dogs in addition to what we already discussed barking at you tonight?
I always look coming into the All-Star break. I like to look at teams that are not elite, but are playing good basketball. To me, it tells me that that's a team with a lot of character. And one of those teams right now is the Washington Wizards. You go back on the season of 3 games under 500. They're also ran in the East. Nobody's expecting them to compete, but they've won 7 out of their last 10 games. They're playing very well right now, and they're taking on a Golden State Warriors team whose sole ambition at this point in the season and the rest of the season is to get everybody healthy and get enough wins to make the playoffs. And when you're playing in a league in which we already know Houston, San Antonio, and possibly Utah because of in Oklahoma because of the way they started. Excuse me, they're starting to fade a little bit. Those are teams that wouldn't surprise me if they were tanking the rest of the season, which means they only have to beat out, basically Lakers and Portland in order to make the playoffs here. That's their goal, is to make the playoffs. They are off a couple of losses, which I think is the reason why this line's gone up a little bit. I'm seeing 4.5s now, but I would much rather take the Washington team, who's out there fighting for every win they can to make the playoffs, as opposed to Golden State, who has a lot of injuries on this team, and they're not playing well, and they're missing their best player. So I'll take the points here with Washington.
Steve, we got Washington and we have Wolves right now as our dogs. Anyone that you're going to be eyeing tonight?
Yeah, I'll give you a dog to look at tonight, Megan. I think it's always nice when dogs can win outright. And how about if I give you a dog that has won outright for the last 7 times they've been an underdog over the past couple weeks? What's interesting, though, is the other 3 times they not only failed to cover, not only did they lose, but they failed to cover. And that's the Orlando Magic. So the straight up winner is basically 7-0, if I'm not mistaken, also against the spread the last 7 times. And that's because the Magic, as is often the case, has been a dog in each of their last 7 games. But they have won 4 of those outright, including recently as a 5-point home dog against Denver. They also won as a 9-point dog at Philly to start that streak off about a week and a half ago. And Orlando is a team that's playing hard, and that's what you always look for with live underdogs. So I think the Magic are worth a look here, and I have no problem fading the Bulls. They're off of 3 straight losses and ATS losses. Now, they were a dog at each of those games, but they're returning home after a 3-game road trip, and they go right back on the road in a couple of days. So it's a 1-game homestand. I don't think it's a great scheduling spot. Orlando plus the 4.5, and even plus 155 on the money line is a live dog tonight.
How about Houston plus 13? They've covered 5 of their last 7 games. I saw someone in the chat also agreed with that move. Those are our dogs of the night. And now it's time to get into the best part of the NBA tip-off show. That is our best bets section. If you're new to the NBA tip-off show, the rules are as such. 60 seconds on the clock. The panel can do whatever they'd like to do with it, but they must give us a best bet and they must get out in 60 seconds. Bryan Leonard, start us off here. 60 seconds, best bet. Your clock starts now.
Up on today's card, I've got 1 play up in college basketball, $9 Monday, 2 plays up in the NHL. As I mentioned, number 1 the last 5+ years in the NHL, another winner yesterday. It's been my best sport since I started handicapping 6 years ago. I'm going to go back for my best bet on this show. I'm going to go back to what Steve just talked about, and that's the Orlando Magic. This team right now playing excellent basketball. They come out, play hard. They did lose that game to Miami, as I mentioned, a game that they should have won. The road team in this series so far has won both of these games. Chicago is a team coming. Steve mentioned the schedule. Yes, Chicago is at home. After playing 3 on the road, not the best spot here. Give me the Orlando Magic plus the points as my best bet.
With 8 seconds left, Bryan, that is exactly how you do it. Steve Merrill, you've got 60 seconds. Give us the best bet. Show us what you got. Your time starts now.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a free play in the NBA tonight, a late night game on Monday, which is also available at WagerTalk.com. Don't forget, I post free plays each and every day on the website. But more importantly, 2 strong best bets for $9 Monday, 1 in college, 1 in the pro. Number 1 ranked in the NBA for 2023 right now at WagerTalk.com. And I'm number 2 college and pro basketball sides combined. And I've got 2 of them going tonight for $9 Monday. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. The free play I posted earlier today was Golden State -3. Now, that was earlier this afternoon. It is up to 4.5 as we're doing this show live now a couple hours later. But I think the money move makes sense. Golden State, I do think, will take this game serious after some losses. I know they're without Curry still. They got bigger picture on deck making the playoffs. This is still a Golden State team that's been very strong at home this year, 21-7. Wizards playing hard, back-to-back home wins, but now they're starting an extended road trip. I think it's a tough spot tonight, and the Golden State Warriors get back on track. Give me Golden State minus the 4.5 as a free opinion. Don't forget the 2 strongest best bets, $9 Monday, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
Right on cue, Steve. Andy Lang, prop god. I assume we're going to get a prop as our best bet, but you are the judge of that. So your 60 seconds best bet starts now.
Yeah, actually, shout out to Rick in the chat room. Actually, shout out to everybody in the chat room. But Rick just randomly threw out a prop that happened to be my best bet. I think he's 100% correct on Vucevic over 15.5 rebounds and assists. Another play in the Orlando Magic game. Last 3 games for Orlando were against Miami, Denver, and New York. They didn't have Mo Bamba, and they were out rebounded in all 3 of those games. Bam Adebayo had 23 rebounds and assists. Jokic had 18. Eric Gordon had 16. Julius Randle had 20. So they have been giving up a ton of production to the opposing big men. Vucevic, I can't believe Vucevic is being consistent, but he is in this department. He's been crushing his rebounds and assists. Gone over this total 7 out of 8 games, including a game against Orlando where he had 18 rebounds and assists. They also played Orlando in November. He had 23 rebounds and assists against them. Give me Vucevic. Best bet tonight over rebounds and assists.
And Rick, I promise you, Andy did send that in the screenshot in our Slack. So if we need to get some proof out there, he's not stealing your bets. Here's today's picks recap. Dogs and best bets. Feel free to take a screenshot of this page right now to get our panel's best bets and underdogs of the night. Lots of action in the NBA. We appreciate all 3 of you joining us. Andy Lang, Bryan Leonard, Steve Merrill. It was great breaking down this Monday slate of NBA. Go cash some bets. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on the NBA Tip-Off Show.
Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet On It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.